So, guys, yeah, thank you for joining, guys. I'm Fania, I'm the host, and I'm going to take you through this special topic today with these very, very special four industry leaders, which I do think have a very personal and very nice take on this topic. So, sit straight and listen. And yeah, to the topic. So, I mean, collaborations, 2019, 2018, 2020. We have witnessed numerous collaborations between being involved with talents, being involved with brands, and the craziest people combining forces to make something wonderful. And we're going to talk today about the pros and cons about that. And yeah, so let's start. I'm sitting here with Inan. Inan is creative director and founder of Inan, a brand found in 2013 in Berlin, and that was followed then by opening a store in Berlin Mitte,
Yes.
Archive, right? Where you can, re-love and buy archive pieces and nice pieces. And yes, I'm really happy to have Inan here today. Then we have Ismail. Ismail is the CEO and founder of Clubkind Markting. Every one of you who wasn't able to join the keynote before, Clubkind Markting was founded in 2007, 2008, right? And is working with industry leaders like Jägermeister, Nike, Converse, and all of that, being both advising and working with them and joining forces and doing collaborations. So a true all-rounder in media and everything else. Then we have Frederik here. Frederik is joining us from Tretorn. Tretorn is a brand that is, if I'm doing my math right, over 120 years old, correct?
Well, yeah, almost 130.
Almost 130, oh, it's even better. And from Sweden. And also, Tretorn is focusing on its design, or it's inspired by its design, by the Scandinavian weather circumstances, correct?
Yeah.
Do you want to add something to that? I think there's way more to say to that.
No, it's correct. We have a saying that we're born out of Scandinavian weather.
Yeah.
We started as workwear for farmers.
Yeah, which is so cool. No, yeah. Thank you for being here. And then we have last up Pietro Boselli, who is the founder of Petra Design, a company that focuses on engineering, fashion, and fitness. You also have a fitness PhD, correct?
Engineering PhD.
Engineering PhD, but thank you for correcting me. I do think of that coming from a background as a fashion influencer and also having an engineering PhD. I do think that these are the two perfect ingredients to make a band like Petra, right?
Yeah, sportswear,
Yeah, cool. Cool, so thank you and give a warm welcome again for these four superstars. So, we're discussing today, as said, when every brand has a collaboration, how do you make yours stand out? You're all coming from a creative aspect, you're all business leaders, you all exactly know how to collaborate from different angles and perspectives. Therefore, I'm going to start with you, Pietro. Your sportswear brand, Petra, has a very defined identity. How do you make sure that this comes across with the right image and message, even when collaborating with other brands who have a different background? And what about the collaborating with talents and influencers? Because that's also something you do, right?
Yeah, sure. Just to give a bit of background about Petra. Petra is a brand based in London, and we manufacture everything in Italy. We do high-performance sportswear from sustainable sources. There are 3 layers to our image, and the way that I try to create it is so that the first layer is that the image has to be cool.
Yeah.
I feel like when you make the narrative of your brand to be just the technicality or just the sustainability, you tap into a very narrow niche.
Yeah.
I feel like most people want to buy something because it's cool, and you're making it technical because obviously this is what we do in sportswear, and you make it sustainable because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
In terms of because the first layer is the image, it's very important that this image comes across when you collaborate, yes, with other brands, but also when you collaborate with influencers.
Yeah.
Our specific image, Petra in ancient Latin means stone and rock, and we're inspired by the timelessness of nature, and by our image is very futuristic but archetypical as well. We are inspired by nature, but also by, you know, elements of architecture and you know, mathematics. And you know, my engineering background brings that in as well. So I'll give you an example. Last year we collaborated with an Italian brand called Esemplare. They specialize in outerwear.
Yeah.
And I think when you collaborate with another brand, it's important to identify which are the strengths of each part in the collaboration. So in our case, our strength was the image and the social media reach and the design elements, and Exemplare's strength is the manufacturing ability and the technical ability. So it's important to define at the beginning which one is doing what, so that you stay true to yourself, but at the same time it's important to take the occasion of the collaboration as a chance to actually explore something that normally you wouldn't do as a brand. So, for example, like I said, our image is very futuristic and very technical, and we took this chance to explore some designs that were inspired by ski wear of the 80s and make it a bit more urban. So we make a piece of, like a jacket that, even though it looks like a ski wear jacket, is actually something that you can use as fashion. Which normally is something that we wouldn't do. So, I mean, the success story here is that we were able to communicate like a cool image like we wanted to, and Exemplare were able to show off how technical they were in making a garment that was fully sustainable and high performance and, you know, weatherproof and so on. If I have to say like things that people have to watch for is sometimes, because there's two brands collaborating, there's a tendency of going, you know, like different directions once the product is made and everything is defined. So it shouldn't be neglected, you know, the strategy to like how this is communicated. When it comes to influencers, we have a very well-defined image which we try to communicate with as little words as possible. So mood boards, you know, a set of clear imagery of what the brand actually stands for. And, you know, this is obviously a seeding strategy. It's important to find people that align with your narrative and are enthusiastic about the brand. You know, very often, you know, you look like someone who's an influencer and you think, okay, this person ticks all the boxes. But then if they're not excited about the product or the brand, or their narrative doesn't align, that is not going to work. And I'll get onto that later when we see things from the other perspective as well. But yeah, in general, it's very important to identify the right influencer, but at the same time, really communicate, really provide guidelines so that you make sure that the content is consistent.
Do you think guidelines with that, do you think it's limiting someone to collaborate with, or do you think that's something that it's enhancing both powers to...
Yeah, it's a very fine line, because obviously I'm an influencer myself. You know, this is what I worked mainly on, actually. So through my main platform is Instagram, where I have 2.7 million followers. So I do get a lot of business there. And I find sometimes it can become restrictive if a brand tries to impose some guidelines that won't work. I mean, I know my audience really well, so I know what works and what people expect, what kind of content they want to interact with. But this is precisely the point. I wouldn't choose to collaborate with a brand that doesn't align with what I want to say. So that's the tricky part, I say. Because on the one hand, you want to have, as a brand, your image, you know, passing through the influencer, but at the same time, the influencer knows their audience. So there needs to be a balance between the two.
Yeah, that's super value, I agree. Cool, thank you, my love. Inan, you studied fashion design in Stuttgart, and then later you came to Berlin to start with Inan, the brand, right?
Yes.
And I know I grew up in Berlin, so I know it from back in the days, you know what I mean? It was that thing that everyone was wearing, that you were collaborating with bigger people, and I saw it almost, I saw it for some period, and still I saw it everywhere, like the double N, you know what I mean, like you're wearing it. How is it for you? How was Berlin vital as a location to do these collaborations, you know, because you came from Stuttgart to Berlin, and how do you choose your collaborating partners? So how was, yeah.
Now it's very loud because when you were speaking, I was like, can we put up the monitor a little bit? Is it loud enough? Can you hear everything? Yeah? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
But back to the question, I think Berlin, when I came to Berlin, it was around 2013. It was kind of fresh, and you didn't really have a brand coming out from Germany who's following international state of mind when it comes to placing the product. What happened was over the years that me as a DJ, DJing with a lot of US artists when they're coming to Germany, backing them up, opening the shows, starting to create that network, that was the moment when I started to realize, okay, now it's time to start the brand, because when I studied fashion design, I just finished and I was like, what I'm gonna do with this? Because what you're studying is not what you need to sell. It's like so much, I don't know, you're studying fashion design and they don't teach you how to sell. And at that point, I realized, wow, this city is so fresh, there's so much going on, but there's not really a brand which is transporting this. So it was time for me to start and make a little collection, 8 pieces back then. The support was amazing. And that's how I realized that Berlin is definitely the city. I have this little sentence in my brand book which says, the city that always is but never becomes. Everyone speaks about the city, but somehow you can't like grab it.
And have
It's you need to live here to understand what it is or what this is about. So I think it's very important to have a base where you can spread the product. It makes no sense to start doing events or lounges in cities where you can't reach the target group you want to. Unless you're Kanye West and you're doing your release in Wyoming.
For sure.
So that's how I think about it.
And I do think there's some truth about Berlin, absolutely, and about the location. I was always wondering if that's something that's helping you as a brand to develop who you are in a way, and if that's going into your DNA, you know what I mean? Something like you grow on your brand as your identity, and you grow on it, and you obviously want to communicate that across the board. Was it hard for you to communicate that DNA for, like, as you said, like you were collaborating with people in the US and overseas? Was that something where you always needed to give a piece of Berlin, a piece of that little sentence you have in your brand book?
What I'm trying to do is when I do collaborations with other brands or when we are starting to create an idea for what we want to do, it's definitely that we always having the influence by the culture we're representing, and that culture definitely comes from hip-hop. It's like how I grew up. This is where we are coming from, and that's what we're trying to put it in many ways. Germany as a country where I grew up, but also Turkey, where my parents are coming from. So, and when it comes to, because I think your question was like, how do I choose the partners?
Right? Exactly. Or like how,
It needs to fit to our DNA. It makes no sense to do something with anyone where I have no connection with.
Totally.
Because we will go
we will go there, totally.
And then that's where the problems are starting. So we were always very lucky with the partners. We could have sit down and speak about what we want to do. And that collaboration thing started like, it was I don't even know. The way how our collaboration started was that we didn't know what to do in the next season. Because we started with 8 pieces, and then we were in a moment like, oh my God, there's next season coming, but it was already next season.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, we have friends in the industry
Yeah.
and asking them, is it possible to make something with you guys?
Yeah.
And that's how we went into this collaborations. It wasn't my plan.
Yeah.
But after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're close to get that stamp of this is the collaboration brand.
Yeah.
So I tried to step a little bit back
Yeah.
to create something
Okay.
just by the brand.
Okay. But you're still proud of being like
Oh,
collaborating so much.
super proud,
Yeah?
super proud.
I think you can be totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Frederik. So we did acknowledge and followed the collaboration of Tretorn and Makia. Am I saying it right? It's Makia, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you say it like this, right? Yeah,
I say it the same.
Yeah, both of the brands, I think, from my perspective or how I saw it, is a very functional wear, very simple, not simple, but like, yeah, functional in a way of that's not that much accessorized and lametta and all of that stuff on it. How is it as this is like, as I see it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, both of these brands are coming from the same roots, kinda, because also Makia is a Scandinavian brand as well. How is it collaborating with a brand that's so similar to you, and how do you, yeah?
I would say that Makia, if it wasn't for the guys that owns Makia, we probably wouldn't have done a collab with a brand like that. Mainly we choose collaborators where we can combine some kind of function and reach new markets or new heights in creativity. But Makia shares the same kind of values as we do, and we both they come from Helsinki and we come from Skåne in Sweden. It's about 119 years apart from when we started the brands. But that collab, it started, we are all old skateboarders and snowboarders.
Yeah.
And we were at a trade show in Piteå.
Yeah.
And we paid for a wall that actually faced their stand.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we had our logo in the middle of Makia's stand. So we started to talk about what happened there. And then we came in to talk about the islands in between Sweden and Finland and the war that was going on for 200 years ago. And then we realized that this wall in Piteå was kind of like our demilitarized zone on the island of Åland.
Yeah.
And then we started to talk about sustainability, and we made a capsule collection called Åland, and made it all recycled, donated some to a fund in the Baltic Seas, and then we worked together on a mission to drive the same story.
Yeah.
So from our end, it was not that hard to do it with a brand that is so similar. We put the same values in it and then just brought it out together.
Yeah.
And since we work in the same way and we have a very strict roadmap on how we do collabs, we do a lot of collabs.
Yeah.
It's and not many people know. I mean, we've been doing it since '76 with ABBA when we created the wooden vlogs.
Yeah.
So for us, it's a way of working, and if we learn from it, and then we bring it in line for the season after.
Yeah. Is it hard if a brand is existing for that long? It must have such a rich DNA in its way. Is it like, and you just talked about values, and if you're collaborating on a regular basis, is it easy to keep that DNA and like translate it, and what's the take for Tretorn on it?
Yeah, the challenges, I mean, the benefits of having a rich archive is that you can pick from the stories that you have. I mean, we're part an outdoor brand, but we're also part a tennis brand.
Yeah.
So we've been sponsoring Björn Borg and Navratilova and tennis players like that. So we can pick and choose from that story, or we can pick and choose from the outdoor story, or we can pick and choose from the music industry because we've been connected with them since the 70s as well.
Yeah.
So, but we turn down, a lot of people comes to us and wants to do collabs.
Yeah.
And we turn down maybe 90% because we don't fit. So it's like, say if Snoop Dogg would come, we would say no.
Really?
But when Andre Benjamin came, we said yes.
Okay.
Because he never sings about drugs, he never sings about minimizing women. He never sings about that kind of stuff, and he also have a transition between US culture and dressing in a European kind of way.
Yeah.
And he used to wear Tretorn in the 90s when he was dancing in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So when he came to us, it was easy. But when other artists like that comes, we usually say no.
Yeah. Yeah, which is, I think it's yeah, you definitely have to still have these, if you have values and if you have a DNA, I think it's super vital to keep this in a way and to turn down even if it's not working, even if a Snoop Dogg obviously would give you probably a lot of...
be very glad to see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Probably we would say no. But for us, it's also, I mean, we transformed a big part of the brand starting 2016 on a whole new mission where we started the Eco Essentials initiative. So we transformed all our sneakers, bags, 85% of the jackets and stuff into be recycled, recyclable, and with a very strong manifesto on the direction where we're going. So now also, if we do a collab, it will be with this kind of more responsible manufactured way in the Eco Essential initiative. And that's also when we, like the collab we're doing now with Nigel Caborn.
Yeah.
It's also
which
the
is
same.
Also here, right? We can also find it at Seek, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's in trade union.
Yeah.
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 So
have a look.
so it's also, I mean, he's proud of that he works with Ventile, which is a fantastic fabric.
Yeah.
But for us, it was more to be like, okay, so how can we inspire him to take the next step? And he's an icon, but we've been around for almost 3 times the time he's been around.
Yeah.
So if we can inspire him to do this, then we're taking a step in the industry to drive it. And then we can find a way to communicate our values and drive it up.
Yeah, I think responsibility in our day and age in 2020, 2019, all of that, I do think it's super valuable to have that. And yeah, thank you. Also, who I have to welcome here, my dearest, is Ainy Naim. Ainy Naim is creative director of Anne's Clothing from London, correct? To get a little bit for the people of you who don't know Anne's Clothing, it is a brand that seamlessly combines the vivid hip-hop era from the 80s with knitwear, both distinctive and practical. Please give a welcome to Ainy.
Thank you.
Welcome, Anna. So, my love, then the next question is right away for you.
Tell me.
So, you're a London girl, and your brand has an informed approach to luxury, looking to create garments with purpose and the ability to be part of a new narrative and stories. If you would choose a collaborator, what hard facts and brand bio are important for you, and how would you choose?
So I've had a few collaborations since I've started, and that's how my brand grew. I was a stylist before I started this. I studied fashion, I had the whole experience, but I worked a lot with musicians, so I was constantly making them clothes anyway. So when I started the brand, I was quite blessed to have Swiss Beats mentor me, and he came in and he curates galleries and all sorts, and that was my first collab, and it wasn't a business, it was purely like a creative collaboration, and that's how a lot of my collaborations have started. Literally like creatives at a studio, and we come up with things, and I've got one coming out with Baron Davis next, the same way he was a customer and then approached me with some ideas.
Nice.
And I like to see how culturally aware someone is when I collaborate with them. So with Baron Davis, we've done like a lot of African influence. That's something he wanted to touch upon. At Swiss, we did, like, he's very proud of the Arabic influence of it with his background. So for me, it's more of a vibe and a creative fusion. And a lot of the people I work with have like minds. So I've got kind of an idea of the artists now that I want to work with next. And, but it's so organic.
Yeah.
Like it's never been planned. It literally is like Carmelo Anthony, we did the same thing. It was pure organic. Like they'll come to me and they say, we like your knitwear and the way you do it. And we fuse the product that they want and create a limited edition piece.
Yeah.
And I try and do it quite often because it's fun. It's like creating a song.
Yeah, that's cool.
Or a remix, you know?
Yeah. It sounds like your take on this is taking an artist and also valuing their, if it works backgroundly, and they have the same common ground as you.
Yeah.
Then that you kind of enhance like both brand. That's how it sounds.
Totally.
Both brands enhance and kind of find common ground, but still live for their own DNA and brand identity.
100%.
If that's right?
Yeah, culture's so important to me.
Which I think absolutely.
And I know as designers you can appreciate a culture, but if I was going to do something on Africa, I would want someone related to that background.
Yeah.
My work's predominantly Middle Eastern. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
So it's almost kind of honoring and respecting it even more with someone who has influence in that region as well.
Yeah.
Culture's like the reason I do what I do.
Yeah.
So.
It sounds so good.
Yeah.
So how was a day? Imagine I would be an artist and I would be lucky enough to collaborate with you, my love.
I'd be honored for any artist. Artists are artists on any level.
How would a collaboration look like with you? What is happening? What are the processes?
Okay, so I won't mention the name, but there's an artist that I really loved, and I used to collect his pieces. I saw him first in Art Basel. So I used to collect his pieces, and we followed. He ended up buying some of my pieces. We've never met, but we've already kind of come up with some concepts off his toys.
Yeah.
So he makes toys.
Yeah.
So I usually, like, we're talking creatively, I'll be like, can I knock out some things? Can I make a few pieces?
Yeah.
And I'll just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And I'll use different techniques. Like, we've got printing now on knitwear and just different intarsiers. And then I'll just send it over and be like, well, what do you think of this? And then let them develop it or critique it.
Yeah.
Or rip it to shreds and say, now you're on this, do this instead. And we kind of, over a few months, will come up with a product.
Yeah.
But it's very organic.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like there's room for mistakes. And
I like the mistakes.
If you can say mistakes, I think out of mistakes, the most beautiful things happen sometimes.
Totally.
That's
why I didn't want a formal process. It's just like we're vibing.
Yeah.
And I guess I was around musicians and I saw how some of the greatest songs were made that way.
Yeah.
You just got two musicians that vibe in a studio, come up with a beat, and you create an amazing song that's... So I guess I followed that through with what I was doing.
Yeah.
I'd like to go into like the more formal collaborations, but for now I've loved being able to work with these amazing people in a natural way. Yeah.
That's so cool. I think that's very valuable. Thank you for sharing that. And Ismail, on another aspect of this, you working for, or you being the CEO of Clubkind, having agencies like Jung van Matt, which is a super big commercial agency for the people who don't know in Berlin. And how's it for you? What is your forecast in a way on collaborations, or would you even advise to have more collaborations or less collaborations happening in 2020? What is your take? Do you think it's valuable or not at all?
I only have my personal experience, which is 10 years ago, collabs were running crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had like a real organic hype that gave a lot of life to the culture, to the streetwear culture.
Yeah.
But then the money came. And the big dogs came.
Mm-hmm.
And the big dogs started making nonsense collaborations where like, okay, this is now Oreo cakes and the t-shirt, okay, no. And still people believed the hype.
Yeah.
So I'm a big Public Enemy fan. Like one of my main sentences, don't believe the hype.
Yeah.
But people did, and people were standing in lines for bullshit products.
Yeah.
And that kind of killed the culture. But that happens always. That happened to hip hop, that happened to the sneaker culture, that happens everywhere. Or to the gaming culture nowadays. So collabos kind of got picked by guys that were trying to scale the stuff. But collabos, in my eyes, needs to be limited. Right? Because you need to keep the demand over the offer. Right? The demand needs to be bigger than the offer, so you still have kind of, okay, I got something valuable. The aura, the mystique of that product, you know. So this is, in my eyes, this is in the future, I hope that they are going to be less, so the culture can like come to life again and build something new, you know. And maybe in 4, 5, 6 years, whatever, I would be ready as well to get a collaboration and really buy it or sleep in front of a store to get that.
Yeah. So like, if I understand it right, that means if a brand is, for example, doing collaborations over collaborations over collaborations, and maybe one of them is valuable, you think that would lower the demand for the overall brand?
Yeah, the problem is we have a lot of kids with a lot of money, right? So the first Yeezy that ever came out was like really hot. And 6, 7 years later, you had like 200 kids in front of a Foot Locker store in the high street in Cologne.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, you need to evaluate your value. This is one problem, right? Like, do I want to wear something a 12-year-old kid is wearing? Like, is it appropriate to wear this now? This is problem number one. The other problem is the resellers. So these days, we have internet. And eBay and stuff. So we didn't have this 20 years ago when crazy collaborations came out, like really crazy stuff. We didn't have this. Now we have it, and now there's like a, you know, like a hype on that. Like you try to get something, it's impossible. You know, they're so quick on buying your stuff, right? So this is why, if you ask me, like if I was God of collaborations, I would kill that planet and start from all over again, you know. This is, and I hope that it's gonna come back one day, or I hope that like these resellers don't pay attention to it anymore because it's not bringing that money anymore. You know, it's. I remember like when we still had Yeezys left in the store the first time. Like I came into the store, there was Yeezys left. I was like, wow, the world is coming to an end. You know, like what's happening. But
I understand. It's so good that you said that because it's going right into my next question, which fits now. It is to all of you guys. In 2019, Virgil Abloh merged with IKEA, Rick Owens with Birkenstock, and Nike with Sakai. All of these are very unusual kind of fits together, way different from what way Tretorn, for example, was using and like using to merge DNAs that fit together. These especially chose to go way different. But then on the other side, looking at it, it totally worked for them, for their things. So Virgil Abloh IKEA was something I saw for days over days on my Instagram, and I was like, okay, I get it. It's a foot mat with IKEA on it, or so, you know what I mean? And yeah, but it was insane. So high fashion in general collaborated with streetwear and was well perceived. The collaborations are stronger than ever and do not hold back on our most vivid imaginations and become a perfectionized tactic to pick consumer interest. Do you guys see a future for this, and why? And this question is for all of you. Does anyone want to?
ladies first.
Ladies first.
Go.
I like it.
Yeah.
Like, I prefer to buy like homeware over like a garment if it's going to be Virgil.
Yeah.
I do like the fusion. I'd love to do something with food and restaurants because it's just a natural hobby. And like I said, I'm about the culture, so I'd love to kind of take over a restaurant and do something and then launch a product that way. Obviously sneakers too. Yeah. But if it was outside, I do think homeware, kitchen, it's just outside the box of the general collab.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think the unexpected is something that communicates well within, or for you at least.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Spices,
Spices.
like spice boxes. Like if you look at Marmite and like certain products that are retro or classical, and to put like the A&Z spin on them.
What would for you be a crazy collaborator you would like to collaborate on?
I mean, I love like the Coca-Cola cans and like the water bottles. Like, so if we were to do like glass water bottles or something that you can keep forever, like.
Yeah, that's cool.
But obviously, that's outside the fashion element.
It is, but I think you can still you at least can still make it fashion with your DNA and bring your thing in it. I think nowadays, and you guys can jump in if you think it's completely wrong, but I think you can make a lot of things and a lot of cool items who are not particularly fashion items become fashion items in a way, you know what I mean? So you have like little keychains which are not really like, all of that stuff is not anymore like fashion, like it used to be fashion, but it becomes something that's desirable and cool and a status symbol. Yeah. So yeah, guys, how do you think the merge of IKEA and Virgil and all of that?
I think there are like two different ways of looking at this. One is obviously, criticizing it and saying, well, we've seen it before. I mean, I think the first collaboration of this type was maybe like 10, 15 years ago when Moschino did the McDonald's. They were like the pioneers of the idea of taking something completely commercial and making it fashion. And obviously that has followed suit. We've seen like DHL t-shirts and all the sorts. And obviously there's been a big boom of that. And, obviously one way of looking at it is, we're sort of cheapening, the cultural aspect of it, and like fashion used to be perceived as something so, high and unattainable, and now it's just like. But on the other hand, this is what culture is. This is the zeitgeist of the moment, and this is, probably in 20 years we'll look back and be like, oh yeah, that was so cool. There's always like a resistance to something that is new and it's perceived as, not as valuable, or or all these kids buying it, so it's not as cool. But this is what it is, and it sells, so obviously there is a demand for it. So, obviously both ways, can, are equally valid. And I think every brand has, they're entitled to do what they feel identifies with them. On the other hand, one could say, well, this is just mindless consumerism or whatever it is. But it isn't. It's you can like still see how everybody, this is what fashion is about. It's about expressing yourself in a variety of ways. And now that we have all these media that allow anyone to express who they are, there are so many different standards of aesthetics, of beauty, and all of that. So we're just trying to cater to everybody. On a personal level, I mean, obviously the brand that I have is very centered on functionality and sustainability and the technical aspect. So I'm not going to do a collaboration with McDonald's. The way I see it is two brands that bring something to the table and they have like something valuable to offer, and sort of heighten each other and support each other in that way. But I'm no position to criticizing if someone wants to do a collaboration with IKEA.
So I'm from Sweden, so I can criticize. No, I truly hope that kind of collabs dies. The Virgil IKEA, but on the other hand, what you're talking about and what you talk about is that when you do something that you create value, like spices in a restaurant, to find a new way of developing the two brands into something new, it's great. And I hope that more collabs like that will take place. But this kind of like, let's do this together, build a hype, sell it, move on to the next one. I hope it disappears because it's not good for the industry. It's good for Instagram, but pretty much nothing else. And I don't think that IKEA has gained so much credibility into new consumers and entering new markets to this. It's just a gimmick for them to be able to get more press coverage and more Instagram likes. So I hope I stay like that. I hope it dies.
Inan, what's your take on it?
I completely, for me, it's like I have a different experience with this kind of situations because me as a DJ, DJing back then with Virgil, having sets with him, or with Marcello Boulon, Heron, their focus was fashion. They used the music to enter it.
Yeah.
And my focus was music, 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 because me as a hip hop kid, like, wow, I gotta, like, what is my goal as a hip hop DJ?
Yeah.
Okay, if I reach that level, I can start now being more focused on what I really want to do.
Yeah.
And that happened when we came to a collaboration, DJing Jay-Z and Beyonce's tour. And that was a moment saying like, oh, even more to include that brand understanding into this collaboration part. So from my perspective, it's, I think what Easy also said, if that deal is in front of your table or on your plate, I don't know who's gonna access.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I see it, because in the end of the day, of course, we all have our own perspective of saying like, okay, it's not good, it's good, it's now the saga, or it's happening right now, but I'm trying to go in a position where are these people sitting and they need to sign that deal or not. But I don't know how many numbers are there.
Yeah.
That's a very, very important subject at that moment.
Yeah.
That's how I think it.
Yeah.
And I can't really say like if I would turn that deal down.
Yeah. Depends on the deal, right?
I mean, at some point we're having our own brand, for example, doing this high tiering collaborations with like brands like Adidas. I'm working with a photographer, his name is Chimodu, placing legendary photos. But this is niche, this is credibility.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you need that commercial product to finance the coolness.
Yeah.
That's how I think.
Yeah.
And no one knows the deals. What is his deal with that brand?
Yeah.
What is the deal with that brand?
Yeah.
With that collaboration?
Yeah.
And that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Especially if you are the face of the brand and everyone is judging.
Yeah.
They're just waiting for you to make a mistake.
No, unfortunately, yeah, but yeah, unfortunately.
I mean, I understand you. You're from Sweden. IKEA for you is like, right?
We also done collabs with IKEA.
But just as an honest, serious question, you know, if that company comes tomorrow and says like, "What's up?"
Yeah, we're in discussions with them, but yeah, no. If they would come to us,
It's a very thin line, a very, very thin line,
Definitely.
because the people are very good in judging when the product is released.
What I think about it, it's not that I don't think it's. I'm not here to criticize.
No, absolutely not.
But what I think is that when you do the collabs, I think it's very important to create some kind of value that lasts a little bit longer than the 24-hour hype. And from our point of view, we love to do collabs as well, because it's like we get to work with people in other design departments, which brings a lot of knowledge and a lot of inspiration to the table to our company. And we can go to them and share from our archives and talk about heritage and sustainability and come with our knowledge. So it's also a way for us as a company to stay on top and be inspired by others and collaborate rather than compete. It's too many brands that is like competitors rather than it's like we're in this business together. And then you can start working and sharing and building stuff together, and you grow as a brand in a good way. But what I'm not positive about is like the 15 minutes of hype. Yeah.
Well, it works.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's
a lot of
business.
yeah.
So, I mean, I appreciate your Scandinavian way of seeing things, which is you know, obviously, like, you know, collaborate instead of competition is a very, like, you know, unite and create something of value. But at the end of the day, the reason of existence of a business is to sell, and even if it's to get attention on Instagram, that's what ultimately, you know, draws the attention and the customers. So it's I agree totally with what you say. You know, at the end of the day, when you are faced with the deal and you have to run a business, there are other considerations. And even if someone comes along and says, well, that collaboration with IKEA sucks, they're still talking about it. You know, so at the end, who decides what is the industry? What are the boundaries of the industry? The industry evolves so quickly. So obviously, in your view, the industry is the heritage and the archives that you have and a certain way of doing things. But because the industry is evolving so quickly, what is the industry? Now, everything is an integral part of it. The Instagram, the hype, the collaborations, no matter how far-fetched they are. So I think it's a take it or leave it. If you want to be part of this industry, that's what it is.
I agree.
I like seeing
But
fusion.
it's no, but of course it's part of the industry. But you don't have, or us as a brand doesn't have to.
Oh,
do all of
100%.
it.
And this is what I was saying earlier.
But it's up to everyone. It's like we're doing another collab now with Sea Life Trust, where we collecting fishing nets, turning them into be backpacks, jackets, sneakers, and launching them on all the aquariums around the world, and then we give 10% back to their ghost net projects. That's also a way to do it. And of course, there's a demon behind that as well. They're owned by Merlin Entertainment. So you get into all the Legoland and all the other entertainment businesses. So of course, it's business. We all have, otherwise we can't pay salary to the staff. And we have to cut down.
Yeah.
I think just what Easy said was you have that collaborations which are growing like human and they have like a very strong standing and that collaboration makes them so special. But on the other side, you have the commercial collaborations. They never left. Like they were always there. If I think way back, I think I was 8 or 9 years. That was like probably the first collaboration I saw in my life. It was Jill Sander making a Clark shoe.
Mm-hmm.
What is commercial?
No.
What is what?
The open audiences, like the kids that were buying IKEA rugs weren't going there before or carrying the blue bags. It opens up your market to like a whole new generation of kids that would maybe go somewhere else. Or it did make IKEA cool. And I think the fact that there is such cultural fusion, like you had that whole Virgil's, would you consider him hip hop? What would you, he's urban, Virgil.
Yeah, sorry.
Like to have that crowd then move into IKEA like that, I like seeing it. If it's for a moment. I love seeing fusions in any way, so I'm for it.
Yeah, probably IKEA benefited more from the collaboration.
Who?
IKEA. I feel like the commercial...
They became cool.
The commercial brands become cool, like McDonald's or the IKEA.
Yeah.
They're always there to benefit more, but they're the giants in the collaboration. And I feel, the hype works, but it's also time limited. And of course, having a company like yours that has been around for 130 years, they've been around for that long for a reason. The integrity and the values and so on. And maybe like what you're trying to say is that these type of collaborations that are commercial are more short-lived. But it's a different type of business model, I suppose. And it's definitely like, I like it. I like seeing the collaborations because, like I said, they reflect our times.
Yeah.
And then every business is entitled to make their own choices.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that the IKEA collab with Virgil Abloh was really an exception. It's like collabs to me were very boring the last years. I got kind of bored, and when that came up, it looked like, I thought Virgil is Midas. Like whatever he touches is gold now. He could have done that with a car, he could have done that with a plant, he could have done that with a ball, you know what I mean? Like whatever it is, if water, it works. People go buy the water. It's just water. It's gonna be $30, but it's water. But this is art. The other side. If you remember Andy Warhol, it was just a whatever. You know, it was just a can, and there was tomatoes in the can. It said Campbell or something like that. And of course, people that were admiring Da Vinci were like, "Oh, this is trash," but it was pop art. It was art, and I consider Virgil Abloh as a real artist. Like he does something to that chair or to that whatever it is at IKEA. What I don't like about it is people freaking out so much about it.
Yeah.
You know, like I love that the culture I grew up in now is being on a level where it's really art. You know, we have Abloh as one of our culture. But what I don't like about it is that silliness around it. You know, like people fighting over it, and you know, like it's not cool. Like it's too much demand, and too many people that are just trying to buy it to resell it. They don't even love it. They don't even understand what he's doing by, you know, putting these marks on the word.
Yeah.
They don't think about it, but they just want to grab it and sell it. And this fucks up the game.
Yeah.
Right? Too much hype.
Guys, I think that was a super interesting talk, a super interesting input from each of you. You all come from a different background, but still it combines you all together of being exceptional at what you do. Does anyone in the audience has a question for that topic? Yeah, you go, my love. Yeah, if I'm not screaming, yeah.
Really? Oh,
He's done it all.
quick. He's quick. He just said it.
With Evian.
Yeah, you made it 15
Evian.
minutes.
This was on demand, drop shipping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All good. Definitely. The DNA part is for me, when I'm talking about the DNA part, I need a connection. That's how I can make the product the best way I want to represent. Doesn't mean that my DNA is not in his brand. It's like making a baby. I don't know this woman, but at some point I'm connecting, right? She tries to change me, I try to change her, whatever happens, and then
You know the problem.
That's how I
is-
see the DNA part.
Yeah.
I need a connection.
Maybe it's the values that they share together. Maybe it's your values that you share together, or your some vision, something.
I need a connection. If there's no connection at all, do you really fit?
Yeah.
At some point, you.
Yeah.
Right. Let's
Or-
keep it in the
Or
creative
you-
part.
Yeah, you can like call it vibe maybe. You know, if the vibe is right, if you meet the creative director of another brand and you just see the products, you touch them, and you're like, yeah, this is something I could use, you know, to add to my brand or to my vibe, what you could call image or whatever, to my vibe. But to your first point, you're totally right. Like during all the discussion, the last 30 minutes, I was like, okay, now he's talking about that kind of collabo, this is another kind of collabo, this is just an add-on, this is just functional, and this is super mystical, you know, and this is just like for money, you know, like this doesn't mean nothing. But the word collaboration has been used or misused, however you want to call it, and I think there's a common sense of collaboration which means two brands on one product. That this is the minimum that you need for calling something a collaboration. Two brands, that mean two logos on one piece. Whether it's water or it's a car or whatever it is. And from there on, there's a whole world of collaborations. Like there's no matter the price, despite the price, the selective distribution of it, like where can I buy it, the limitation, the kind of product, but as long as two brands being on one product, you could probably call it a collab. But the word collab doesn't mean that it's good or bad. It's just a fact, like a featuring on a song or whatever.
But for example, if Ikea comes to Tretorn and say, I want you to collab with you because I'm very interested about your fishnets.
Depends on the deal, right?
Depends on the check.
You have to wait a year, and then you will have some gardening kits from us there. No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. If they come and share the same kind of values as we do, and want to support kind of direction, we are open to do it with brands that kind of like brands or retailers, or it's a bit different if you are a producer, manufacturer, or a retailer. But we also done it with H&M, the most fast fashion. It's not all that. If we do it with someone that kind of like stands out from the entire thing that we stand for, then it needs to be connected to the Eco-Essentials initiatives. So we can come in and inspire and work a little bit around that value system and maybe plant a seed in their product department and maybe pass that on. So I wouldn't say that we have like a shit list with people or brands that we don't want to work with. It's all up to the deal and the possibility. And if we can follow our values. If we can't, if that's off the table, then we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, you would wonder that how often it's the other way around. The small, cool brands want the money. Like you could come up with an average brand and ask for collaborations, and they drop you something like $400,000 for one collaboration, and the brand is so small. But you know, like this, they found out that it's something that could bring money. So the checks are not only like being proposed by bigger companies, it's also smaller brands be like, okay, I'm a cool brand from Berlin, I'm Inan, like this is my life-changing money bag now. IKEA just asked me for a collaboration, we're gonna do this, I'm gonna get a lot of money for it. So this is something I experienced the last 12 months, like I was trying to help a brand to get collaborations, and it was really, really hard. No matter how small the partner was, they were trying to get a lot of money, maximum money out of it. So this was kind of new to me, and I just wanted to add something to what he just said. If you collaborate with another brand as a marketing guy or a designer, don't get swallowed by the partner. You need to be strong. The collaboration only works if your profile and the profile of the other one is really sharp. That doesn't mean that you have to be bigger than the other one or on the same level. I'm just talking about sharpness of the brand. Because if you exactly know how chocolate tastes, and you exactly know how, I don't know, tomato tastes, and you know that two together are not working, these two together are not gonna be tasty, because these two things are precisely defined. So the problem comes up when a famous brand is working with a non-famous brand, or the other way, a non-famous brand is trying to pay money to get famous by the other partner that is more famous than him. So that doesn't work, because like Adidas, collab, whatever, that doesn't work. Like Puma just dropped a shoe a few weeks ago. It was named a gaming collaboration. Well, it was a shoe, and then there was Tetris on it. And I was like kind of, I was deceived. I was like, oh, why? Like, it could be more cool. It could be more interesting, more creative than taking the most average game of all times, Tetris, and just put the graphics on the sole. Like, more creativity to it, please. Do more than that. This is like a punch in the face of a gamer. It's exactly the same if you take an average rapper, just put him on a t-shirt, but, oh, this is a collab. No, this is not a collab. If he does something with him, or with her, or with him maybe, on another level, there might be maybe more creative output than that.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Unfortunately, we need to end it here. But if you have any more questions, and if you want to... No, that was super nice. No, maybe not. If you have more questions or anything, I'm sure these guys are up for answering them all. And give a warm applause.